Hello, and welcome back to Cabincast.
Whoa.
Legitimately, for the first time in a little while, we haven't done these as much as we would have wanted to in the recent years, but here we are. We're back with a proper episode. He says a proper episode. We're doing another TV series, so it's still a bit different to the usual kind of thing. This one's probably gonna potentially be a two-parter. I think the first one was just one longer episode, so we'll see, I guess. But Star Wars: The Clone Wars, because it's me and Tom. We can talk
Hello.
about sci-fi a lot, and Star
Yes.
Wars even more so. But yeah, Tom's
Yes.
here. It's me as well. We've got no Chris, which is why we're not doing Wings of Power, which was our plan, sort of. But it'll be a nice
Yes.
change to get
That
back.
released today,
It did.
and now we're going to have to wait 2 weeks before we can watch it. So we've got
We
2 weeks of spoilers to dodge. This is
I'm going to be on
fun.
holiday next week, so hopefully that will help.
Yeah, just
with
turn
me
off your
missing
turn off your phone.
Pretty much.
Um,
But yeah, so Clone Wars series one we talked about a while back.
yes.
And yeah, we talked about the film and the first season and kind of the structuring of the seasons, because I didn't know at the time that they had subtitles.
Yes.
Which we know now. Um,
Well, I mean, almost all of them have one. Season 5 just doesn't. For
Season
some
5 is
reason.
a continuation of Battle Lines. I think we
it's
decided
what
in the
we
end.
yeah. It's Battle Line
which-
Part 2 in reality, but they didn't give
Season
it a
5 is like Umbara and stuff, isn't it? So
Yeah.
absolutely is Battle Lines.
I think Umbara might actually.
What's that for? Is that Tail End of 4?
Crisis on the Boo, Revenge, Bound to Rescue, Point of No Return, Sabotage.
No, it's
No, it's Onderon.
It's Onderon. It's the Onderon arc, and
It's
then
Onderon and the Padawans and the Jedi who knew too much.
And the droids.
Mm-hmm. And the droids, yes.
And the droids.
Umbara's
yes,
season
no,
4.
Umbara's season 4, which is definitely it's War to War followed. It's freaking Mon Cala followed by Umbara.
Yeah.
Followed by the kidnapping.
Yeah.
One. Followed by.
But we're not doing that, so we're going to refocus on season 2.
Yeah, season 2 is what we're here today, which is Rise of the Bounty Hunters.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like, okay, Rise how? They were always here.
They were always here. So, Rise of the Bounty Hunters is a bit of a weird one. I think it's the only one where they actively were like, okay, we're going to try and do a theme with this and go and do bounty hunter stories. Because again, Clone Wars is an anthology, so
it is.
these
Some
stories
of these, especially, are in the complete wrong order. This series, especially.
Yeah. And this was back before when they were like not really paying too much attention to like where these stories sort of like popped up. In later seasons, you begin to see a sort of continuation. Each episode came after the other, and by season
4, really
4, and definitely by season 5, they're all in the correct order. But before that, they're not. Which, by the way, leads to an interesting possibility that at some point Disney or Lucasfilms will reorder the entire series and maybe remaster.
That could be
when
cool.
They're doing it, which would be a very cool thing to do. You could even slot in a few extra episodes there. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
It seems like because Filoni's essentially in charge of animation of Star Wars, isn't he?
Yes.
Which is, we've got some other stuff. Bad Batch has been delayed because Andor got delayed and everything's been shuffled back.
Filoni wants to move on, but it would be cool if.
But it would be absolutely cool, no, for sure.
Yeah, but it would be cool, I think, if a couple of years down the line they do a remaster, particularly of the seasons which are perhaps less.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I mean, one of the most interesting things about watching Clone Wars is watching season 1.
Yeah, and then watch
season 7.
Yeah, it's like night and day.
It's so cool to see go
we
through the
still
transformation.
sort of are in that season 1 type thing. It's getting a lot better in season 2, but it's not until season 3 when we begin getting the far more nuanced take on animation and cinematography that the Clone Wars becomes known for. So we're in a bit of a weird period, a bit of transition between what the series was originally supposed to sort of be and what it became with season 2. And again, it's the only one with the sort of thing. So we'll start off with the first episode.
Indeed.
Which is really more of a sort of 3-episode arc. It ends up being a 3-episode arc. Holocron Heist, which is one of the most important episodes for Ahsoka, in my opinion.
And just one of the ones that this is the ones where Cad Bane screws up everything for Sidious, right?
Yeah, Cad Bane gets hired, does one job correct, and then in the next 2 episodes manages to nearly bring down Sidious.
Yeah, it's
just by failing.
Yeah, he does it again by actually like kidnapping him or something. I swear as well.
No, that was the previous season. That was Hostage Crisis.
Is
the
that
final of season 1?
Yeah, that's literally the previous episode, isn't it?
Yeah, Holocron Heist is where Sidious hires him to go to the Jedi Temple and to steal
after his whole interaction with the last time. Yeah, that makes sense. Yes, sorry. It should be pointed out, I am a lot less familiar with the earlier seasons than Tom, and the Bounty Hunters is especially not really my thing. So a lot of these episodes I haven't really rewatched. A couple of them I have.
So he steals the holocron, he uses a shapeshifter, so we get the same species of Zam Wessel again.
Yes.
As a cool callback, we get the introduction to his droid, which he actually blows up.
He
and then
goes
somehow
through
gets back.
a few of these droids, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They all have the same personality though, so that's fine.
They're all one of the Seths.
Yeah. He gets away with stealing it, but there's some nice character development for Ahsoka because Ahsoka at the start is doing something stupid, and Ahsoka's characterization, particularly in season 1, came off as very irritating and annoying and able to get away with what she wanted. In season 2, that begins to get broken down and she begins to actually start learning stuff.
It's almost like they had a plan.
Yeah, well, they did have a plan.
Exactly.
Cargo of Doom is a good Anakin and Ahsoka episode, in my opinion. It's again developing their relationship, making these characters a lot more fleshed out and better. This is the one where Cad Bane has gone. He's captured a Jedi with the crystal to open the holocron, but he needs a Jedi to open it.
Yep.
So he lures Anakin into a trap, and we get a really cool scene with the AT-ATs where they use them as boarding craft, which is
that was great fun.
Once again, the creativity with the AT-ATs in the early season is amazing.
ATTs.
And then we get Children of the Force, which Cad Bane gets captured, but no. Cad Bane uses the holocron to find and kidnap Force-sensitive younglings because he managed to get it open off Anakin.
Indeed.
But he ends up getting captured. Anakin and Ahsoka go to find them while Mace Windu and Obi-Wan use him to basically try and capture Sidious, but that doesn't work because
it does not. Because of course it doesn't.
Yeah, and Cad Bane escapes. So that's the first sort of collective of ones, and then we get into a massive arc, largest arc of the entire series. Although you can argue the first episode is only tangentially related, and that is Second Battle of Geonosis.
No, you've missed one.
Yeah, I know. Senate Spy is part of Second Battle of Geonosis.
Oh, no, it is, isn't it? Oh, yeah. It's just because there's freaking Clovis episodes.
So we start with a Rush Clovis episode. Better in season 6.
It's a love triangle. As we know, we do not care for those.
They're all right when they're done well. Like, for example, Game of Thrones. One of the fundamental parts of Game of Thrones is the insane amount of love triangles and love quadrets as well.
Yep.
Because, sure, why not? That go on in that series and how that affects things. When the love triangle is used effectively, it becomes a very powerful tool of storytelling. When the love triangle is used in stuff like Senate Spy, it does not. We see in season 6 when we get more Clovis episodes, they use it far better because they use it to expose the fact that while in this series we do see Anakin and Padme be the most functional that they have ever been, their relationship still deep down is fairly dysfunctional and fairly toxic.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that's a good use of it. Here they don't do that. They just sort of have Padme do a spy mission on Cato Nemodia, which reveals the fact that the Geonosians are doing that, and then she reveals Crush Clovis that, oh yeah, he's obvious bad guy.
Yeah.
So that was a bit meh. The next episode,
which to be fair, it is nice to see more of Padme doing stuff. And they do. Clovis does have an arc.
Yeah.
By the time we get him in season 6 again, so
yeah, there are better Rush Clovis episodes,
there
and they are
certainly are.
certainly better Padme episodes as well, in my opinion.
No, for sure. But the next episode, which that one kind of is related to,
is one of the best of the series.
It's
Landing at Point
great
Range.
fun. D-Day for Star Wars.
Yeah, this is good.
Is what this is.
So they plan an attack on Geonosis. Obi-Wan,
Anakin,
Ahsoka, and Kade Mooney go down, and this is probably one of the only times we actually get Kade Mooney on as like an actual general.
No,
we don't get him much, not compared to some other people.
Indeed.
Luminara is also involved, but she's off screen for this episode. And we get this big set piece battle. It's one of the biggest set piece battles in the Clone Wars.
Especially early Clone Wars.
Yeah, for the early Clone Wars.
For season 2, it looks pretty damn good.
Yeah. It also has some interesting implications. You see that, for example, Obi-Wan and Kade troops are sort of all prepared for it, whereas it looks like Luminara's and Anakin's troops have sort of almost been thrown back, like have been like turned around rather quickly and sent into that, because you've got the nice camo on Obi-Wan's and Kade Mindy's troops, which looks like they've been preparing for desert combat, whereas Anakin's just sending his troops in with no camouflage in stark white again. Which again indicates that there's been some moving around. So there's some nice military, like sort of they've pressed a couple of legions and units into this before they were potentially ready because of the information that Padme has garnered. And they know that they're working on that massive droid factory that they need to destroy. It's an amazing plot, amazing setup, and it pays it off in the end of this episode while setting up effectively the next episode, which is Weapons Factory.
Before we get to that, this is also a really interesting episode in I mean it feels very much more like D-Day or like a war thing. For sure, you've got everyone coming from different places, and you've got the bit where the Y-wings all come in and blow up all the oncoming troops and everything, and it's like really like air support, great. But also the Jedi, starting to change a bit. Like you've got them doing this competition of who's killed the most. And it's a very fun kind of Legolas and Gimli aesthetic thing, but these the Jedi, that's not what they're supposed to really be doing, but it's how the war is changing and like what Yoda talks about. So that's always interesting. And then the bit of the flamethrower is just pretty messed up for a kids show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Kade Mooney is a psychopath, so. I was also about to mention the fact that most of the time the Jedi aren't necessarily slicing through people; they're slicing through droids,
but here it is.
It is also the Geonosians. So yeah.
No, exactly.
Speaking of Geonosians, Weapons Factory. This is a good introduction to Barriss Offee. Or I should say a good reintroduction to Barriss Offee, because Barriss Offee is very different in Legends when compared to canon. And honestly, I kind of prefer her in canon.
She's a very interesting character.
Far more interesting in canon than she is in Legends. I know a lot of people enjoy the books that she's in. She's in, I think, Medistar, which is a really good book. Well, a book I've heard a lot about, and I kind of want to get my hand on or even listen to it on
Sure.
Audible, which I have the points to do. Actually, I might go do that. But from what I've seen and what I've heard of her characterization in Legend, it paled in comparison to the amount of time and stuff that's put into her character in this in the series here, and
Yeah.
having a more standard Padawan to compare against Padawan Master Duo to compare against Anakin and Ahsoka is really quite nice because it does kind of show how unique their bond is in a nice and interesting way. So Ahsoka and Barriss have to go sneak into this weapons factory and destroy it from the inside.
Yeah.
Anakin's plot in here once again reinforces the fact that he can't let anyone go because he has to let Ahsoka go and do this mission and find her own way for it. And then when they end up in a no-win situation, he has to. Whereas Luminara gives in, is basically like, "Oh, it's the will of the Force." Anakin's like, "No, we're going to excavate this. We're going to find them."
Which is the difference between the two of them.
Yeah,
as we know.
And we see the difference as well between Ahsoka and Barriss, because again, Barriss sort of accepts her fate, whereas Ahsoka starts working on a solution to get her and Barriss out of there, which again eventually works, and everyone ends up staying alive.
Indeed.
Which is, apart from the many clones and presumably a whole lot of Geonosians, which did die. So yeah, and then
get the super tanks as well.
Oh, we lost something.
We lost Gyark. We still have Craig.
Okay, that's fine. So yeah, we get the super tanks, which I'm kind of disappointed they never came back, but
no,
it kind of makes sense. They were only being built there.
They're cool design. They're kind of like MTTs, but a tank.
Yeah, and then we get Legacy of Terror, which is a really good
creepy
horror episode. I do think Luminara's sort of. Oh,
it's fine. We've still got Craig. It's fine. Gyark's just doing what he wants. It's okay.
Yeah. I do kind of feel that Luminara's characterization is a bit off in this episode. To start with, because her actions almost feel a bit more like the actions that someone like Anakin would take in this episode. Sort of like, there's a storm, you should come back. No, I'm not going to.
Yeah.
Okay. And what are we supposed to do about that? But
well, she's spent a lot of time around Anakin recently. And...
yeah, so I guess maybe Anakin's rubbed off on her.
Yeah.
We get a cool sort of catacomb, and we get some more lore about the Geonosians. It's a fun episode. It is really spooky. It emphasizes the all Star Wars attitude of the writers and the animators here, where any story can become a Star Wars story with enough effort.
Indeed. It's got some slight Indiana Jones vibes, I think, with some of the elements.
There's like a rolling boulder, I think, at some point.
Something
There's
like that,
cavings as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's creepy.
And
it sets up the next episode.
That's the one. Is that the one with the Queen?
That is the one with the Queen.
Yeah, I did the bit with Obi-Wan being like, and so Anakin, where do you think the worm?
Yeah, we get some really. That's another like thing where I was like, is Obi-Wan actually gonna like let this happen, or is he just being a bit a troll as usual?
He's being Clone Wars, so no, he's just being Obi-Wan.
He's just being Obi-Wan. It was very funny to watch.
Yeah.
To watch Obi-Wan on this, and Anakin and go, what are you doing? No.
Yep.
And then Anakin's response as well after that little bit of trolling when he like stamps the parasite. I was like, no, I want to study that. He's just like, study the bottom of my boot. Let's go.
Indeed.
But in reality, Obi-Wan should have been studying that because it would have made the next episode a bit easier on everyone, because we get Brain Invaders next.
Which is another horror episode.
Another horror episode, back-to-back horror episodes. This time it's Body Snatchers.
This time it's Body Snatchers mixed with Alien.
Yeah. Which is such a weird combination with Star Wars, but it works so well. Again, we get Ahsoka and Barriss, who are being sent to a medical station to recover. There's a bunch of clones with them. One of them's infected, and he very quickly infects the rest of the crew. And Ahsoka and Barriss have to try and stop it before it spreads throughout the entire Grand Army of the Republic and end up infecting everyone. Which is an extension of the Queen's already stated plan from Brain Invaders. No, not Brain Invaders, Legacy of Terror.
Yeah.
where she was saying, "I'm going to make the Jedi my warriors."
Mm-hmm. It's not a bad plan.
Yeah, no, it's not.
But they reduced the temperature, right, to be
Yeah,
really cold, and luckily they
and
survived. But this is kind of the first time I think that we get Anakin being really
yeah, we get some
concerned.
really good Vader
Yeah.
indications in this episode. And once once again, I do have to question the naming of Rise of the Bounty Hunters for this, because immediately after this, we don't go into another bounty hunter
Nope.
thing. We go to Grievous intrigue, where we have General Grievous attacking and capturing Jedi Master Eve Goth.
I mean, to be fair, that's kind of what a bounty hunter does.
Yeah, that's true, I suppose. Um,
And what is Grievous if not a glorified bounty hunter?
so yeah, he goes and he captures him and he sends a message, and then we get some really cool, almost Morse code like communication between the Jedi, so they know that he's on Seleucami.
Yeah.
So Adi Gallia,
Yeah, we get
Anakin and
some Addy
Obi-Wan
stuff.
go to rescue her.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of a bit disappointed that we didn't get as much of Adi Gallia as we could have in this show.
We see her a couple of times, and then she gets brutally murdered.
Yeah, it's interesting because you don't see her on Geonosis. She's the Jedi in charge of the fighter corps,
Yeah.
which is kind of weird when you consider that what's his name?
Sicey Tin.
Yeah, Stacey Tin's down on the ground. You'd think they'd put
He
Stacey
should
Tin
be.
up
He
there.
forgot he was good in fighters.
Yeah, he was like, I want to fight on the ground for a bit. It would have been cool if we got more of her as well, to get some more legend characters involved
Yep.
in there, because that would have brought back some favorite characters of mine from Jedi Apprentice. But that's
We still get her. We also get Eathcoff.
Yes,
which is cool.
And we also get some pretty good Grievous Obi-Wan stuff.
We do, because again, Anakin and and Grievous can never meet properly.
Yeah, Anakin and Grievous can never meet. So they don't meet again properly in this episode.
Nope.
And I think we also get a Millennium Falcon, not cameo, but sort of like a style thing, because when they're infiltrating Grievous's ship, they flip the ship upside down and latch it on, and we get a screenshot which is very similar to the one of the Millennium Falcon on the parked on the Star Destroyer, which is very cool.
Yeah.
And that then leads into the next episode. It's a 2-episode arc, which is the Deserter, which is our introduction to a very important character.
Yes, who has come back and we may well see again.
Yes. So Cutler Quain.
Quain.
And we get Rex's intro to him, and I like how him as a sort of deserter becomes almost like an open secret with a select group of clones, so they all know where to go and that type of stuff when they're needed.
Yeah, so Rex gets injured by a commando sniper while scouting on Seleucami.
Probably the first episode that begins to actually develop Rex as a character beyond just he is a clone captain and he's willing to follow Anakin.
This is one of the this is the first one for Rex, and it's one of the early clone ones. Like we obviously have Rookies, which deals with clones a bit, and like little bits even in like Ambush straight away with Yoda speaking to them. But there's not super loads in the first season. Beyond that and Rookies. So and then this is the first kind of big clone one we get again.
So moving swiftly on to a one-off episode actually, which I guess has a bounty hunter like element into it. I guess a thief. Yeah, it's Lightsaber Lost.
It is, which is a great episode, and it's much more sad now after watching Obi-Wan. Spoilers for Obi-Wan.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. We'll put it that way. So Ahsoka loses her lightsaber, is afraid to tell Anakin, even though Anakin has lost his lightsaber so many times. In fact, it was even a thing that happened in Hostage Crisis, the previous season.
True, yes.
Out of anyone, he's probably the most although in saying that, Anakin's teaching philosophy is do as I say, not as I do, so maybe not. Yeah. Who knows?
It's true.
So she enlists the help of Terrace Nube, who is very old,
Mm-hmm.
seemingly feeble, but still manages to get the lightsaber back without too much of issue. Because he is awesome, and what they did to him in Obi-Wan Kenobi is very bad and upsetting.
Upsetting, yeah, not.
It also does make sense because
but-
he probably half slept through Order 66.
Probably, yeah.
No,
it's a really interesting. Yeah, it's another really interesting Ahsoka episode where because she's just so action, go, do thing, because she's Anakin's Padawan. He's just like, it's fine. I'm gonna do it this way, and he still gets there before her. He still gets lightsaber back, and yeah, it's all good. It's very interesting. It's a lot of fun.
A line as well where I think she says, "For an old fella, you seem to get ahead of me an awful lot." And he says something like, "When you are rushing ahead, you're not able to see in front of you." It's a good line.
Indeed.
And then again, we've got sort of bounty hunters, except they're not, with the Mandalore arc.
Yep, but this does give us Satine.
So this gives us Satine, which is the canon love interest for Obi-Wan Kenobi, because Jesus Christ, Obi-Wan Kenobi is up there with James Bond with the number of people he's seduced over the years. Completely unintentionally, by the way.
I mean, even in canon.
Yeah, to be fair, yes.
Like him and Ventress, him and Satine.
That's more a teasing relationship.
It's incredibly flirtatious.
Mm-hmm.
It's again, there's no feelings there, but it's incredibly flirtatious. Him and
guess you can maybe Bo-Katan to some extent.
Like kind of. Him and now the joke's gone now. It's taking me too long, but
yeah. But you've got
Surfer Dude Jedi.
Oh yeah, Surfer Dude Jedi. That's Quinlan Voss.
Quinlan Voss. I was gonna say there's their relationship.
Who, by the way, is the only one of the of Obi-Wan Kenobi's many friends from the temple to make it into canon through the Clone Wars. Mm-hmm. Which is a shame because there are a bunch of other really cool characters that could have been jotted in here. But again, this is my personal preferences for a bit of lore that doesn't really matter anymore, unfortunately.
And who knows? We may see Quinlan in Bad Batch or something.
I really hope we do see Quinlan in Bad Batch.
Mentioned him on the path in.
Yeah.
And what we're gonna do if not set up the path in Bad Batch? That's so exciting.
So we get Death Watch. We get a bit of interesting lore about Obi-Wan rescuing Satine many years ago. Which I expect to come back actually in Tales of the Jedi. That would be cool if one of the episodes in Tales of the Jedi does that.
Quite possibly down the line. If they do like a season 2 of it or something. That's a whole. We get what? This is 3 episodes.
Death Watch, and we get the Darksaber.
We do get the first
the Mandalore plot. That's the first episode. The second episode is Voyage of Temptation, which is a whodunit murder mystery, except the murder hasn't taken place yet.
Yeah.
Which is really good. I like this episode. There's some weird horror vibes as well.
Yeah.
Like the droids using the clones as puppets. And we also get a really fun moral quandary at the end because Satine is a pacifist. She can't kill someone, even when that person is threatening to blow up the ship and kill literally everyone on it.
But luckily,
and Obi-Wan doesn't want to kill him because that would make Satine really pissed off with him, and she's already really pissed off with him.
Yep.
But thankfully, Anakin is there just to stab him in the back.
What? He was gonna destroy the ship. Who is it again? Who's the?
The guy who's going to destroy the ship?
Yeah.
He doesn't really matter what his name is. He's one of the other senators of sort of like
senator, isn't he?
Neutral thing, but he's an ally of Count Dooku.
That is the bit though, right, where we get the line from Obi-Wan about if you said the word, I would have left the order, right? That's that episode.
No.
Was that later? Oh, okay.
That was with Maul on Mandalore.
No, that's not with Maul. It's much before Maul.
I swear it was before.
That's when she dies.
I know that's when. No,
I swear it's in like season. I swear it's here.
I swear it's very late, Ollie.
I don't think it is, but let's find. I'll find out while you keep talking.
Yeah. So then you get Duchess of Mandalore, which is an episode.
Again, more cool Satine
Yeah,
Obi-Wan
it's
stuff, but the episode around it's just fine.
yes. Satine is basically has to decide herself as a civilian because people are really going after her now.
Yeah.
But the Senate is threatening to involve itself in Mandalore because Palpatine wants the Senate to involve itself in Mandalore. They managed to stave it off, but Palpatine has his plans and his plots, and Mandalore will face consequences for being neutral, as we will see later on.
Mm-hmm.
Which then leads to Senate murderers.
Mm-hmm.
Which, again, dealing with the cloak and dagger on Coruscant. Onacron of Far is poisoned, and Padme teams up with Bail Organa to unmask the culprit, who turns out to be a fellow senator.
Again, senators are just really sneaky
Bad.
people. Onacron Defar's like it's recurrent character as well because
Yeah. He does show
yeah,
back up on a. It's an easy way to tell if an episode's before or after this
he does show
episode.
back up a couple of times. Yeah.
Yeah. It's sad to see him get stabbed, but he also did betray Padme in the Rhodia arc in the previous season. So
He made it up for him.
yes.
But yeah, then he died.
Also, interestingly, if you read the Darth Plagueis novel, he appears
Mm-hmm.
and is used by Plagueis and Palpatine as a firebrand because he's very well known to get sort of twisted up in his views and to stick to them.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an interesting little thing, and there's a great scene where Palpatine is analysing the senators before him at a party, and he calls out Far and basically analyses his character. Gives a lot more context to the way he would have operated in the Senate. So that's cool.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
But it's again it's a good episode for Padme, but it's not the best.
No.
Episode 16, Cat and Mouse. This is a very good Anakin episode.
So this is the first canonical episode.
Yes, in theory.
In theory, in the show.
Yeah.
We get random clone troopers' first day at work.
Yeah, we do get random clone troopers' first day at work. So this is the stealth ship, the stealth ship.
Yeah, and we get a great separatist villain.
Yes, who will become recurring, although for a long while it looked like he wasn't going to be.
Occasionally recurring. He shows up like
later
1 or 2
on.
more times, but it's cool to see him when we do see him again. Yeah. Trench.
Trump's almost sort of like an adversary for Anakin, which is cool because I think in every episode he is sort of facing off against Anakin plus some other people, or just Anakin.
Indeed.
And again, it's a really cool take on the standard submarine sort of trope where it's a stealth ship and there's ships trying to find it and it's cat and mouse and it's really good. I like this episode. It also gives some nice characterization to Yularen.
Yeah.
Who goes on this mission because he's also faced off against Trench, which is another nice sort of implication that there's some history between those, which gives Anakin and Yularen to actually have more of a reason to end up sticking together.
Yeah.
And then we have Bounty Hunters. Finally, we are 17 episodes in. Okay, the last episode with an actual bounty hunter was episode 3. We're now back to bounty hunters.
Yeah, we have a little bit of like bounty hunter-y stuff here and there, but
okay.
But this
taken
is the
a bit.
stuff, yeah.
Okay. Anakin,
and I was right.
Ahsoka,
it is that episode.
It is that episode. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all right.
Anakin, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan crash on Felucia, which is interesting considering that Felucia was previously in Holocron Heist being evacuated.
Yep.
And they decide to help 4 bounty hunters protect a local farm. Intent from pirates intent on stealing those crops. 5 guesses.
7 samurai episode.
Yeah, 3 guesses which pirates are stealing those crops.
Hondo
and Aka. It's a it's a nice homage to Seven Samurai. That's what it is.
And Akira
It's
Kurosawa, who just is the massive inspiration of Star Wars.
yes.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a good episode in that regard.
the Bounty Hunters is a cool. We get Embo,
Yes.
who's awesome.
Embo ends up being the one that ends up recurring the most.
Yeah, I mean, because Embo was gonna die, and they're like, "No, he's too cool. He can't
Yeah.
die."
Embo's not allowed to die. He's too cool.
He's not.
And having that nice little aside of, here we go, here's some bounty hunters. We then immediately go back to not doing bounty hunters with the Zillo Beast, and the Zillo Beast strikes back.
Which is now Godzilla / King Kong.
Yes, Godzilla / King Kong. The first one.
First one's more Godzilla. Second one's more King Kong.
Yeah. First one's Godzilla. Second one's King Kong. So we get the battle of what's it called, Malastair. Interesting stuff about Malastair, once again from the Plagueis novel. Malastair was colonized not by the Dugs, but by the Gran, which are the Free-Eyed Fellows. And those guys were supporting the Separatists, which probably explains why the Dug are supporting the Republic in this, because they're fighting for their freedom.
That makes
very
sense.
Nice.
We do like
that. I mean, the Dugs are also very unlikable in this. But that's through no fault of their own.
Mm-hmm.
We get a fun sort of dilemma with Mace Windu and Anakin Skywalker, because they have to save the beast because it's the last specimen of its kind.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, the Dugs really, really want to kill it, because back in the old days, the Zillo Beast hunted them for some reason. We don't know why.
Yeah.
And they find a really interesting solution, which is to use some small zappy tanks to stun it.
They do.
But
then we get another Jedi dilemma.
Yeah.
Because the Dugs are like, kill it, and we'll give you the fuel supplies, but it's the last of its kind.
Yes. And then in Zillo Beast Strikes Back, Palpatine ruins everything.
We used to get some mace.
We do,
in this one, and he's not being a complete arse, which is nice.
Yeah. As I was saying, next episode, Palpatine ruins everything, because he wants impenetrable armor for presumably his upcoming empire.
For whatever we can get it for, yeah.
So he brings the big destructive beast to Coruscant, a planet that is literally a city.
Yeah.
And then it develops a personal grudge.
Yeah.
Which is, by the way, hilarious.
It is.
And he goes, and the Zillo Beast goes after Palpatine and goes to attack him. Anakin has to defend him, and the clones kill it with poison gas, which is really sad.
Mm-hmm.
And Palpatine kind of gets his wish, sort of, although he doesn't end up getting that nice armor plating that he was after. So
No.
But he does survive. So
there is an egg, isn't there?
There is an egg.
That's one of the loose threads that we've still got dangling from Clone Wars. Is there is a Zillo Beast egg?
It's going to appear in
Who knows?
Going to appear as the final boss of Jedi Knight.
Who knows?
Oh god! I can't even
then we do get back into some more bounty hunter stuff.
Yeah, and then we have our final,
which is
Boba. Our final bounty hunter stuff, which is with Boba.
Which again, I wish I cared for, but I just don't like Kid Boba. He just annoys me.
It's all right. We get a destruction of the a cruiser. This is what I don't get though. For some reason, clone cadets are on a Republic cruiser.
Yeah, it's
an active Republic. What?
It's a bit odd. It's a bit odd.
You would think that kids who are being trained to be soldiers wouldn't get day outs. They would get training. And I mean, they do sort of do training, but it's just kind of like, why?
I do feel like they kind of forget that they're on an accelerated thing, and they just treat them like kids whenever we see clone cadets, which is fine. Yeah. Because to us, we feel like they are as well, but they probably shouldn't be. I mean, but that's like
in technicality, we should be treating the clones as kids, regardless.
Sure, well, exactly. It should be one or the other. But like, yeah, it's consistent throughout all of Clone Wars, so it's not something I have a bigger problem with. But it is, it's a bit odd.
It's just a bit strange. we then have R2 come home, which is R2 saving the day. I like that episode. I think that's a really
Mhm.
good thing for R2D2. It's one of the droid episodes that I can stand. It's not the really stupid R2D2 and C3PO need to go find a fruit from somewhere for Padme,
No.
which is an entire episode concept later down the line or before.
Yeah.
I can't remember when.
Mhm.
And it's nice to see R2 get everybody out of there, and we get some Mace Windu reflecting on his decision to kill Jango Fett, and we get some more stuff with Boba and Aura Singh as they try to get to see if Windu's dead or not.
Yep.
And then that leads to Lethal Trackdown, which is our finale,
Mhm.
and I kind of think it's a bit underwhelming. I assume you probably feel the
Yeah.
same when compared to some of the things in this
Yeah. I
season.
mean, like the Boba Mace Windu stuff, it makes sense. And if we get Book of Boba season 2 and it does turn out that Mace Windu survived, which I mean, realistically, he should have done, considering everyone else has at this point who fell out a window or anything.
Windu out the window.
And he only lost a hand. He didn't even lose half his body.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I would much rather if Windu was to show back up, he'd be a potential adversary for Darth Vader in a second season of Obi-Wan, or a separate Darth Vader thing, as opposed to Boba Fett. I know it's kind of important for Boba's sort of history, but I feel like he's kind of grown beyond it.
well, you will get that in Star Wars Theories, Darth Vader
Mm,
Episode 2, even if we don't get it in canon. So, you know, that's something.
true.
Um, but yeah, I know what you mean. But like, yeah, so I'm just not too fussed about Kid Boba being edgy and angry, and also it's this kind of weird relationship with Aura Singh because
Yeah.
it's not like she's motherly, but like there's something going on there, and it's a bit odd. Um,
Doesn't Aura die in this episode?
no, we never see Aura die. We just know she does because young Lando thanks Beckett for pushing her off a cliff
That was it. Okay.
in Solo.
Okay, so
Yeah.
she somehow survives the colossal explosion.
I mean,
Um,
isn't like Bosk and people also here, and obviously they all survive. So,
yeah. Well, that's because they're not on the on Slave One when it goes down.
oh yeah, true. Um,
That's the issue I have with Aura surviving this, but it doesn't matter. It's fine.
yeah.
It's a perfectly serviceable ending, even if
It
we don't care for it.
it's a perfectly serviceable ending to what to me is a perfectly serviceable season.
Mhm.
Like there's some really good episodes in there. Like Bounty Hunters is fun, Cat and Mouse is fun. Uh, Lightsaber Lost is great, and then there's bits and pieces throughout the other things. The Zilliber Beast stuff is interesting. Uh, Satine is interesting. The
Yes.
Deserter and Cutler Quain is all very good, and then there's some really good like ideas in there, like Landing at Point Rain, A Legacy of Terror, and Brain
Mhm.
Invaders. So even if I don't love every episode, I like a lot of the things it tried, or
Yeah.
it sets up a lot of the great stuff that comes
I think
later.
for a season that is described as being Rise of the Bounty Hunters, it seems like, in my opinion, it seems like they were trying to do like almost a themed series, but they immediately got distracted by all the other cool stuff they could do.
Exactly, and like to be fair, does it have the
Um,
most Star Wars content? Bounty Hunter content in a season? Still, yes.
yeah,
Yes, by
probably.
quite a bit, but just not the whole season. But then flip
Yeah.
side, that'd have sucked. So
I mean, I think in the end we get the seminal 5 episodes um arc, which is the Geonosian arc, which I
mhm.
think is probably one of the high points of the series. We also get the Zillo Beast and Zillo Beast Strike Back, which are again very interesting and unique stuff. And there's other stuff in there, but again, I think the high points probably around Geonosis and around the Zillo Beast. Most of the other stuff is sort of okay. Some stuff is interesting.
Mhm.
There's definitely a lot of room that could have a lot of room for improvement. There's a lot of ideas that have not yet come to their fullest potential, like with Satine.
Yep.
But it's an indication of we're getting there. Let's talk
Indeed.
music. It's good.
Yes. It's yeah. I mean, it's Kevin Kleiner, who did all of Star Wars, Clone Wars, did all of Rebels, has done Bad Batch, and hasn't gone wrong yet. Some of my favorite themes from Star Wars
Early
are.
sort of period for him when it comes to doing Star Wars stuff. But
It's
again,
true.
he's proven by now that he is very adept at adapting beats from John Williams stuff. John Williams?
Yeah, John Williams.
Sort of
He's great at
scores.
mixing John Williams' scores with his own stuff. His Ahsoka theme is
One of the
great.
best themes in Star Wars,
Um,
hands down.
Obviously we're not at Sabine's yet, but I love Sabine's as well.
Mhm.
Uh, Music, the other music plays in Rebels, Twin Moons, I think, which
Mhm.
is in season 2, and the music that plays in, again, spoilers
Once
for
again,
this stuff, in Rebels, when Kanan does his sacrifice is
yes.
so good.
I
But
think
here he's getting his
yeah.
also the
Still,
just kind of Clone Wars more dun,
yeah,
dun, dun,
yeah.
dun, 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 all that stuff's just like
I
very
think
distinctly Clone Wars, and it's great.
Yeah, I think the best sort of departure from that is in again the Geonosis arc, and I think again his music in there, particularly when it comes to Legacy of Terror and Brain Invaders, capturing the sort of
Yeah, no, you're right.
creepy aspect of that. And then again with the Zillo Beast Strikes Back, when the Zillo Beast is going down, you can sort of feel the sad music being pulled through there, which is very very good.
Indeed.
We're not quite at the heights of Clone Wars music. We still have, I believe, season 3, and then once we're in season 4, we're really getting into the really good, impressive stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But it's very good.
Voice acting as well. Obviously, D. Bradley Baker is incredible.
As always.
As is everyone else. We don't get again a whole bunch of clone stuff here, apart
No,
from
it's still early
Cut,
days for the
LaQuaine, and
clones.
all that stuff. But
That's more season 3 and particularly season 4.
in season 3 we start with cadets and ARC troopers, so
Mhm.
yeah, we're gonna get there. Oh dear.
Mhm.
Exciting things to look forward to.
Animation style, we're still very much in the season 1 era of stuff, although things are getting better.
Mhm.
We've got larger set pieces than in season 1. We've got more long takes. The cinematography is getting more sophisticated already in this early season, but we're not
Yeah.
quite at the levels that season 3 begin to reach when they have that sort of big shift in their art style, because it's in season 3 where you see a lot of the characters begin to get upgrades.
So when we get the updates and stuff.
Yeah, it's where they begin to start happening. Can't remember if it's mostly around the Mortis arc. I think is when our main characters switch over to
Tail end
their
of
new
season 3.
switch over to their new sort of designs, which look a lot better than the initial designs. Even if I do like the sort of somewhat more militarized style of Anakin and Obi-Wan, and just in general in that early season.
Yeah.
Everything's a lot more polished, I think is probably the best way of saying
Best
it.
way of putting it, absolutely, yes.
So the solid basis for the improvement in cinematography and animation is there for season 3 to begin building onto, and for season 4 to begin reaching the heights.
Yeah.
For eventually season 7 to take it to the absolute insane lengths that they do.
Yes, indeed.
And
that's
with that, I believe, that is about it. So we'll give our rating. Again, we're not quite there on the thing, so I can't remember what I gave season 1. I don't think it was.
I don't even know if we did ratings, but assuming that we did.
Well, in general, season 2 is better than season 1. So I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll do a comparison type thing. It's better than season 1, and season 1 is not bad. Season 1 is very much a solid piece of TV show. It's not as refined, it's not as impactful, it's not as meaningful, and it is more aimed towards a young audience than later episodes.
That's certainly true.
Season 2 is the bridge between season 1 and season 3, and by the time we get into season 3 and we get solidly into season 3, we really begin to see the Clone Wars transition into what it is most well known for. what made it, and still makes it, in my opinion, one of the singular best pieces of animation ever.
Definitely Western animation, yes.
Yeah, well, in Western animation, 100%.
I honestly like season 1 more. It's got the Violet arc, it's got Ambush, it's got the Malevolence arc.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a lot more stuff. It's got Rookies. It's got a lot more stuff that I really like. Whereas Rise of the Bounty Hunters has got stuff that I'm like, I like that bit, but I don't care for the rest of the episode. So, like, to me, it's probably a step down.
In my opinion, in this regard, with season 1, you've got a slow, gradual increase in quality throughout the rest of the season. With season 2, there are some really hard-hitting high points which show where the show is going. There's stuff that remains sort of in the season 1 era a lot more. Stuff that hasn't been developed quite as yet. In that regard, in my opinion, it should be a bit higher than season 1, in my opinion.
Sure.
But as a series, the level is not consistent across the entirety of the series. A lot of these episodes, in particular certain arcs, end up a lot higher than the season as a whole. In other words, not that these episodes are bad, but some of the episodes are dragging down some of the other episodes. There's a lot of solid episodes in here, but the great episodes are what elevates it a bit more, because again, with stuff like the stuff on Geonosis, stuff like the Zillow Beast, we're beginning to get that more nuanced storytelling, that more nuanced take on things. You get more interesting animation, you get larger set pieces, the music's beginning to get a bit more unique and interesting. And the whole way it's put together is becoming more intelligent, but then you also then get stuff which is not that.
Yeah.
So it's a solid second entry. It improves on the first in some ways, but some of the episodes are still the same quality as the first, and it's really in season 3 where we begin getting into 9s and 10s when it comes to the Clone Wars. This is still sort of around 7.
Yeah, I'd say this is high
6,
pushing 7 for me.
Which is where around season 2, what season 1 was around that 7
I think that's
mark.
about 7ish. Yeah, you're right.
It's a similar sort of deal. By the time you get into season 6, we're getting into 9s, and once you're past season 3 and into season 4 and 5, and particularly season 7, you're into 10s. Because that's when the show really begins to hammer home its message and gets really down to business, and that is. Yep. There are certain videos out on YouTube which you look at, which it sort of explain the progression of Lucasfilm animation in that regard, and its rise to become one of the most impressive animation studios in the world. And you see a lot of amazing talent come on in this sort of period between season 2 and season 3, and that's what begins to elevate it. But yeah, that's I believe, unless you have anything else to say, Ollie, all we have to say about season 2. Indeed. It's a very good series. It is. I would argue, if you want to watch, go and watch it. There are several you can skip. You can skip Holocron Heist and its various things. You can probably skip the first episode of the Geonosian arc. You can't really skip the Deserter or the Mandalorian arc, even if they're not at their best here.
Yeah,
because
later.
But you'll need them later. Cat and Mouse, in my opinion, is a must-watch, but that's because I love Cat and Mouse. Bounty Hunters, you can watch if you want. It's a nice tribute to Seven Samurai. It's not necessary.
Yeah.
The Zillow Beast arc, I think, is also quite a decent one to watch, and you don't really need to watch the Death Trap, R2 Come Home, and Lethal Track Down, because Boba, when he does escape, spoilers, doesn't really follow up on that plotline.
No.
So, yeah.
With that all being said, we will leave this one here. Thank you for listening, and we will see you in the next one. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Cabincast. For more episodes, go to www.cabincast.podbean.com or use the Podbean app. You can now also find us on iTunes and Pocket Casts under Cabincast and on YouTube. The uploads here are quite behind. Finally, you can find us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Cabincast. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.